Alrighty. So to start this mix, let's go over what we've got. We've got MIDI bass, we've got MIDI drums, we have recorded guitar, and we have recorded vocals, cleans and screams. We have synthesizers. Let's start with the guitars. I love these guitars. I have them separated into chugs, left and right chug guitars, record all the way through, and then we have chorus guitars on a different folder over here. Let's listen to the chugs. They're edited to the grid, and all the silence is taken out with just enough decay and tail at the end to make it sound more lifelike. Just like the A Mice and Men cover, I'm using JST Guilty Pleasure, but this time I haven't scooped the mids out. Kept mids more at, it looks like a 5. It's not what that looks like. But they're up down center. Treble's pulled back a little bit. Presence is pulled back a little bit. The gain is still cranked, and our input gain is still cranked. Before I even get there, I've got smack attack hitting that DI to get a lot of string attack out of my sound. I want to be nice and punctual. And then I'm treating those chugs with some EQ, accenting some woofy 200 hertz, and taking out some subby 100. Multi-band compression all the way down there, 300 hertz and below, really controlling those low-end chugs. And then a limiter, just a little bit, just in case. Over on chorus guitars, it's the same deal. It's a copy paste of that guitar tone. You've got a full 3-part chords, root, 5th octave on the left side. And then you have a 5th in octaves on the right side. So it sounds like a wall, but there's just enough separation to give it a unique sound, which is what they did on the original recording. It's nothing new here. For the panic chord section, it's really hard to get clean string muting between those two sections, between the low chug and the high panic chord. So I've opted to play them separately, the chugs and the panic chords, and then just edit them together for the cleanest recording. Same with chugs. I have the top 4 strings all taped off, and I'm just hitting those bottom 2 strings, and they're as clean as can be because no other string could possibly ring out. It's really important to get a clean guitar recording that way. On our guitar master bus, we've got tons of cleanup going on here, taking out more upper subs or upper bass, taking out some mid-range mud, 460 hertz and 700 hertz, taking out some presence at 2K, some hiss at 4K, and some string at 3K. And they're rolling everything off at 10K. We've got track spacer, ducking out the snare fundamental when it comes in. We have Sidewinder 2, coming with just a little bit of widening. It's not a lot. Just got a little bit of more wideness out of there. And then we have a limiter, just taking off those tops, bringing it more forward. There's really no lead guitar stuff. Oh, we have the synth section with the guitar chops, which is not bust. I may have just played each chord once and then chopped it and then pasted it throughout the whole thing. But it is 2 different guitar tones on each side, I believe. The mids are completely scooped out. Sounds nice and choppy. Love it so much. That's pretty much it for guitars. Let's move on to drums. It's a tight sound with a little bit of room length. Toms have a bit more length than you usually find on here. I'm using Stephen Slate Drums 5.5 with my usual sample setup. We have the black kick. I use that as the foundation for most of my kick sounds because I just love how much attack is on top. I have to try and beg for too much attack. If I need to take it away, I can, but enough attack is always there. And we have a sub kick. Make sure that low end is nice and beefy. There's tons of kick samples here. There's a lot, but it all adds up into something super cool. So let's talk about that kick, what we're doing in the processing. Kick. I have all of those kick samples summed up as after, before. We have tons of attack up at the top there. Tons of click. We're not scooping out that mid-range at all. We're leaving it. We're taking out some 60 hertz. Got a little boomy. We're compressing it pretty generously. an 8-to-1 ratio, taking out -7 on peaks. Fastest attack, fastest release. We have some tape saturation from FabFilter and Saturn. Some smack attack, getting a little bit of attack and a little bit of sustain. Don't forget your gain compensation. And then descend over the edge, we have a clipper and a limiter. Just bring it up front. I usually put a reverb on there, but didn't need it, I guess. Snare drum. So here, it says snare bottom. It's not really true. I believe the snare bottom track is actually one-shot samples, a snare big, and a snare fat. I've seen it before, yeah. That's just like the super dead basis that I want for the snare. And then on the snare top folder here, it's a more traditional snare sound, kind of cranked, that just adds a tons of attack and snap. It sounds a lot like the black snare. Both together sounds great. And then it looks like we're sending, we're also triggering a sample from trigger 2. We got the Led Zeppelin snare. And it looks like I did try the old Zepp snare, but I have that muted. Didn't use it. And then we're using that just for some length on the side, some big room sound to make it explosive. Cool. Editing Dane here. Thing I realized I didn't talk about the snare except for the samples. So here is our chain. Sounds kind of hollow, kind of bright. So nice pillowy. So we have a LA76 here at an 8-to-1. Peaking out about a -7. Then we have Pro Q2, bumping 200 Hz, taking out some Woody 400, Boxy 600, some 1300, bringing up some Presence, 4.5K, bump at 7.5K. Tape saturation from FabFilter Saturn, into some reverb. Kind of a medium room with the kind of a short decay. Going to JST clip, we are generously clipping that. And then we have a limiter, just taking off quite a bit of the top. Toms, let's loop that. We're scooping out the mids at about 500 Hz. We're taking out some lower mud at about 125 Hz. Some smack at 2K. And then tons of attack wide bell at about 8K. We're gonna compress the absolute mother out of those. 20-to-1 ratio, fastest attack, pretty fast release on this 76 here. And we're going -10, maybe even -20 at peaks. I'm cranking it. We got some tape saturation with FabFilter Saturn. Some smack attack all the way up. It's cranked. We have as much attack as this we can pull out. With a little bit of a more sustain, some gain compensation, taking out the extra volume that we're adding in, smack attack in. We have some reverb, just a smidgen. We're about 12% wetness on a pretty wide stereo. Just making sure those toms are heard from every angle. Give it some room, some life. We're doing a decent amount of clipping on there, and then we're going to limit the ever-living crap out of it. Generous amount of limiting on there. It's really hitting it. Hi-hat. No. There's not really much hi-hat in this song, is there? So we have hi-hat accents over in the chorus. We're taking out 500 Hz and 400 Hz and below. We got a compressor here that's doing nothing. It's doing nothing. It's just there. We got a de-esser, which is doing nearly nothing. Incredible. So much useful information. All right, we'll go to the ride. It's just a bell, right? Where even is... There we go. There's a nice bell. Compressor doing nothing. This is probably copied over from my hi-hat. There's a de-esser there. Unsplit banded all around. And then a limiter to bring up the volume just a little bit. That's quite drastically different from the second to Sebring cover. Overheads. Bring up a lot of top end in the overheads, which is... I do have a very good reason for that. So in the beginning... Let's do the whole mix here. This is what happens when I take the overheads away. See how dull that gets? There's so much excitement coming out from the cymbals that in order to make it exciting enough, I had to brighten them up. Really pull out that energy. So overheads in with the EQ off, and then in. We're doing a decent amount of compression on our overheads with the 76 here. I saw -3 on it at a 20-to-1 ratio. We're really being aggressive when it hits. We have a de-esser doing just a little bit of work to make sure those cymbals aren't really being too hissy. And then we have a limiter on the end of that, which is bringing up the end volume. Rooms. Pretty mono sounding, boomy room. Boosting 100 hertz, boosting 4K. It's on all. We're compressing the shit out of it. There's nothing left of that original sound. Lots of excitement coming out of there. And then a de-esser for those cymbals. Other room sound. I scooped it at 500 hertz, bringing some top end. So excitement to the whole thing. Putting on all again, just some compression, not a whole lot. -3, and then a de-esser. Again, this is probably copied over from room A. Over on our drum bus, actually, all those drums are being sent this mediary here, this drums bus, and then the shells are being sent to this crush bus, which is being absolutely demolished by a 76. 20-to-1 ratio. It's going nowhere. It's pinned at -20. We took out 100 hertz and below. We took out 6K and above and boosted the mid-range. And then it made it quite distorted with some decapitator. Over on our drum bus, we're compressing it once again, 8-to-1 ratio. Fast but not super fast attack, and then a very similar release. We're just taking -1, -2 at peaks. A little bit. Tape saturation, just a little bit, 10%. We're clipping it. We're limiting it. And that is being sent to a drum verb, which is FetFilter Pro R. Rather medium room with a very quick delay. We're really trying to give those shells some carry and width. How about bass guitar? We've got a Loki Bass 2 here. We're compressing that DI pretty heavily, an 8-to-1 ratio, pinning it -20 as we go into a Sansamp clone from Modern Music Solutions. Mids all the way out. Don't want them, don't need them. Treble is at 10 o'clock. Presence is about 11 o'clock. Drive is straight at 12 o'clock. We don't want a whole lot. We want to let those very 3K heavy guitars carry a lot of the tone forward, a lot of the attack. So this bass is just carrying our low end and helping support those guitars and make them be meaty. And then we've got our balls track here, which is just our low end. This is just 250 hertz and below, being smashed, -20, 20-to-1 ratio. We're clipping it very generously, and then we're limiting it very generously. And that's being sent to our bass bus here. We're dipping out 40 hertz because I let it go full range, and I wanted to leave that for my kick. We're boosting 70 hertz, letting it have its own area for its low end, ducking out the 200 hertz meat zone. That gives the fundamental, the snare, someplace to punch through. It just sounded cleaner when I did it. We're boosting some life in the mid-range at 1.2K. Some nice farty string noise. And then taking out everything at 5K and above. We're going to compress that at a -5. 8-to-1 ratio. Fastest attack. Fast release, but not fastest. Tape saturation. We're clipping it again. We're limiting that. It's going nowhere. It's exactly where it needs to be. Stuck. We have track spacer on there to duck the bass when the kick comes through. It's going in and out pretty fast, pretty generously at 20%. Alrighty. Vocals. All right. We're listening to my vocals here, so be nice. Here is some cleans. Never said that this would be easy. So go away. Never said. I'm sung in 4-part harmony here. Our lead vocal, 200 hertz and below, is gone. We're ducking out some mid-range mud at 900, kind of nasally, and some 2K presence. Never said that this would be easy. And then rolling off the top end. Not a lot going on up there. We have a de-esser. Never said that this would be it's doing work, and then that is into gain reduction. Adding a lot of grit on there. Just copy pasted to these other ones. Never said that this would be easy. So our lead track here is being sent to some parallel processing here. I have a Widener on a max, 3 voices. I have a delay, which I think is only for this top track. It's just for that part. Other than that, the leads are pretty dry. There's not even a verb up here. I think I have a verb on the master vocal to glue everything together. But we do have a distortion bus here. by boosting our mid-range, cutting 300 hertz below, and then cutting 6K and above. Decapitator, making it nice and dirty. And we're pinning gain reduction too, with the lo-fi setting on. And then body is maxed out. Then screams. Screams had to be treated a lot because I am not a vocalist. So I gave everything a couple layers just to make it sound meatier because I have a pretty thin vocal. We're pushing those through gain reduction. Looks like there's some fresh air on there. Pushing mid and high. And then a limiter, just kind of clipping off a little bit of top there. And those should be pretty much copy paste between the two. They're thoroughly edited. Again, I'm not a vocalist, so they had to be edited in time, which you may have to do in your own sessions. So learn to edit. And our screen bus here, we're taking out 200 hertz and below. We're dipping 900 hertz, kind of honky. You can get kind of harsh there in screams. We're dipping out the top end. We're dipping out some 5K. That's where a lot of my S's are living, so I'm just pull out some harshness. We're de-essing. A lot of de-essing going on there. We're going to distort all those together to make them more sound like one big voice. We have a little bit of widener on those, which is micro shift. There's some echo and reverb for just one part. Very nice. And then we're going to clip it. We're going to limit it. You already know. It's my favorite thing to do. Clean vocal bus. Lots of compression going on here with the 76. 12:1 ratio. -10 on peaks. Fastest attack. Fast release. Boosting some chestiness at 300 hertz. Some top end presence and brightness at 7K. And everything 150 below out of town. We have some tape saturation again. So there is some reverb on the master clean vocal chain, kind of gluing those voices together. We're clipping it, JST clip, and then we're limiting it a lot. I couldn't tell you why I made that decision. It probably just sounded good. That's most of my decisions. Let's talk synthesizers. So synthesizers carry this song. They're very, very important. So we got some MIDI pulled from the internet. So thank you, internet nerds. MIDI is only good as the instrument you apply it to. So I have the keyboard copy and pasted. Went to combine two sounds to try and get as much of that range as I could. With this top one, I wanted to get that portamento sound as the notes kind of bleed into each other. I have it copied left and right, 1 octave below, 1 octave above, going left and right. Give it some nice width and character. Then we're decapitating the crap out of it. Drive all the way up. Not hitting punish, but it's dimed. And with the Q at the end, looks like I wanted to take out some of the note character and then add some presence on this other one. We've got a patch from FiveOut Twin 2, the T-Voy, for just that nice synthesized string sound to layer in with it. And then we got punish on the decapitator, a 4. And for this one, I did want more note information at 500 hertz. So I went and grabbed that, a lot of it, and then a lot of top end brightness. And then 2 sound together. We also have synth choir, and then we got the Glock iconic. We have the iconic piano transition, which I'm just using Keyzone Classic. I think it's a free MIDI piano. Straight into a reverb, so giving it some nice width and length. Tons of top end. Also sounds dull. Some more note information with 700 hertz. Compressing it, 20:1 ratio at a -7, and then gonna limit that. Let's listen to that chorus without the synths. Listen to how much the mix is carried. Listen to the transition. No keys. It's not great. There's not a lot of weight to it. It doesn't feel emotional. Let's add the keys back in. And that it's huge. And they're just so much important in those keys in the arrangement. And they're loud. They're pretty much taking over what a guitar would normally do for a mix. Let's take out the guitars. I'd say the emotion is still there without the guitars. The guitars definitely have their own purpose of adding a lot of chunkiness to the sound. What else, like production-wise? There's a couple risers, I believe, in here somewhere. We got some bass booms. And they have some reverse cymbals going into that synth section. Sub bass here. Let's double check. Go over our mix bus, I guess. Mix bus, which is actually just our instrument bus. Vocals are outside our mix bus. So we have track spacer that is ducking out our mid-range when our vocals come in. And then we have a compressor, which is doing nothing right there. Let's go to a more instrumental section. That compressor is doing nothing. Magical. There's a little bit of 2K taken out. Wide bell. Clipping it. And then limiting that. Just sitting there. I clipped it right at the top of the limiter. That's pretty much it. There's like another mastering chain, but that's on a different session. I always do my mastering on a different session to not be distracted by all the production and extra tracks and all that. I'll see you guys at the next breakdown. I'm not sure what song it's going to be, but I'll choose something I have fun with. So, see you later.